The rain had been falling for 3 days straight. It wasn't the kind of rain that washed things clean. It was the kind that soaked everything in silence. The kind that made the city look like a confession it didn't want to make. Hannah Pierce stood behind the frosted glass of her father's law firm, watching the water trail down like tears on a window pane. Inside, the air smelled of ink, leather, and secrets. Outside, the world kept moving, unaware that her heart had already crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She wasn't supposed to see him again, not after the court case, not after the warning, but fate didn't care for rules. He appeared that night again, the man who had turned her world into something dangerous and irresistible. Luca Marin. A name she wasn't supposed to speak, a man she wasn't supposed to love. Her father had prosecuted him 6 months ago for something buried in blood. A corporate fraud case that had ended with broken reputations, ruined careers, and whispered threats. Luca was brilliant, manipulative, and far too calm for someone who had almost lost everything. When the verdict came down, not guilty, Hannah had been in the courtroom gallery. She remembered the exact second his eyes met hers, across that space full of law and lies. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. His stare said everything. You understand me. And she did. That was her first mistake. Now, months later, he stood outside her office in the rain, his black coat glistening, his face half shadowed by streetlight. He shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have felt her pulse quicken just at the sight of him. Her breath caught as her phone vibrated. One message, from an unknown number. You said you wanted to know the truth. Meet me tonight, 11 p.m., the pier. Her heart froze. Only one person would send that. Luca. For a long minute, she stared at the message, her mind a battlefield. She was a lawyer's daughter. She knew what it meant to protect, to silence, to obey. But she was also a woman with too many questions, and one secret too heavy to carry anymore. She typed nothing, deleted the message, but the decision was already made. That night, the pier was empty except for the restless sound of waves hitting the rusted metal. The city lights shimmered like promises she couldn't trust. Hannah stood there shivering under her coat when he stepped out from the shadows. He hadn't changed. Still dangerous in that quiet, magnetic way. His eyes caught hers like fire catching oxygen. You came, he said, voice low. I shouldn't have, she whispered. You're not supposed to contact me. He smiled faintly. Since when did supposed to ever stop you? Her pulse raced. He stepped closer until she could smell the salt of rain on his skin. Why did you call me here? She asked. To tell you the truth, he said. About what your father did, and about what I did to him. She felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. What are you talking about? He leaned in, his voice a confession. Your father isn't the man you think he is. And the night I was arrested, it wasn't for fraud. It was for something much worse. Her heart pounded. Then why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve to know, Luca murmured, eyes dark with something between guilt and obsession. And because I can't stay away from you anymore. His hand brushed against hers, just once, but it was enough to cross every line. It was dangerous. It was wrong. And yet, she didn't pull away. That was how it began. The night Hannah's love became a secret crime. Not against the law, but against everything she was supposed to believe in. As the rain fell harder, he whispered, If you stay tonight, you'll never be safe again. Her reply was barely a breath. I stopped feeling safe the moment I met you. And then his lips found hers, not gentle, not innocent, but desperate, forbidden, and doomed from the start. The next morning, Hannah woke with the taste of rain still on her lips and guilt burning under her skin. Her phone was full of missed calls, all from her father. The sunlight broke through her blinds, but it felt harsh, almost accusing. Every sound in her apartment, the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the clock, reminded her she had crossed an invisible line. She wasn't the same girl who'd walked into that courtroom months ago. Now she was something else, someone capable of betrayal. Her reflection in the mirror looked unfamiliar. Eyes too bright, lips too red. A woman who had tasted danger and couldn't forget it. She thought about Luca, the way he'd said her father's name like a secret too dangerous to speak aloud. What your father did. Those words haunted her more than his touch. At the breakfast table, her father's voice was cold, controlled. "Where were you last night?" he asked without looking up from the newspaper. "Working late," she lied. His jaw tightened. "At the office? I called." "You weren't there." Her fingers trembled around the coffee cup. "I just needed air." He lowered the paper and studied her, the same sharp eyes that had cornered countless witnesses in court. "You've been distracted lately, Hannah. Don't let emotion cloud your judgment, especially when it comes to people like Luca Marin." Her pulse stilled. "You think he's still around?" Her father gave a bitter smile. "Men like him don't disappear. They wait, they plan, they want revenge." Revenge. The word echoed in her mind long after she left the table. That evening, she returned to the pier, even though every logical part of her screamed not to. But Luca was already there, leaning against a rusted railing, the cigarette smoke curling through the mist like unspoken thoughts. "You shouldn't have come," he said, though his eyes said the opposite. "You asked me to hear the truth," she said. "So tell me." He flicked the cigarette into the water. "Your father and his partner, Elias Trent, used my company as a front. They laundered money through my accounts and framed me when it fell apart. I took the blame to protect someone I loved." She blinked, stunned. "You expect me to believe that?" "I expect you to find the proof yourself," he said. "Check your father's old case files. You'll see the name Marin and Pierce Investments buried under all the lies." "Why would he—" She stopped, unable to finish. Because she already knew. Her father was powerful, respected, feared, and utterly capable of corruption if it protected his empire. Luca stepped closer, his voice low. "You wanted the truth. Now it's going to destroy you." He touched her chin gently, forcing her to meet his eyes. "But I didn't call you here just for that." Her heart thudded painfully. "Then why?" His fingers brushed her wrist, a deliberate electric touch. "Because I can't stop thinking about you, even when I hate myself for it." The air between them thickened. She could feel the weight of the choice pressing against her. Logic versus longing, morality versus madness. "You're dangerous," she whispered. "So are you," he said softly, before his lips found hers again, this time slower, deeper, more desperate. The kiss tasted of defiance and disaster. When it ended, he looked at her the way a man looks at something he knows he shouldn't touch but can't live without. "I'll call you when I have proof," he said, "but if you choose me, you'll lose everything." "I already have," she said quietly. 2 days later, she found the first clue. While her father was away at a conference, Hannah sneaked into his study, the one room in the house she had never been allowed to enter alone. It smelled of cedar, whiskey, and power. She found the files easily, neatly labeled, locked in a drawer with her father's initials engraved on the handle. Inside were pages of contracts, wire transfers, and an unmarked flash drive. Her hands shook as she opened one of the folders. There it was. Marin and Pierce Investments. Her name? Luca's name? Her father's signature. The truth was there, in black ink. Luca hadn't lied. She sat back, heart pounding. She had proof that could ruin her father and save the man she wasn't supposed to love. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every sound outside felt like a warning. Every shadow looked like guilt. At midnight, her phone lit up. Luca, did you find it? Her fingers hovered above the keyboard. Hannah, yes, but I don't know who I'm saving anymore, you or me. A few seconds later, his reply came. Luca, both, if we move fast enough. Then another message, one that made her blood run cold. Luca, your father knows you were in his office. She froze, and in that moment she realized love wasn't her only crime anymore. Morning came, but it brought no light. The house was too quiet. Hannah could feel the tension in the air before she even entered the living room. Her father was already there, standing by the window with a glass of whiskey in hand, far too early for it to be innocent. Sleep well? He asked, his voice too calm. Hannah forced a nod. Fine. Good, he said, setting the glass down. Then maybe you can explain why the lock on my study drawer was broken. Her throat tightened. What? I don't know what you're talking about. He turned slowly, his gaze slicing through her like a blade. Don't lie to me, Hannah. You were the only one home. The silence that followed was suffocating. She wanted to say it was curiosity, that she'd been looking for something harmless, but he would know. He always knew. She began softly, wanted to understand your side of the case. Her father exhaled sharply, pacing toward her. You've been talking to him, haven't you? Luca Marin. Her pulse skipped. No! He slammed his hand on the table, the sound shattering the air. Don't insult me. Do you have any idea what that man is capable of? He's not the monster you think he is, she whispered. Her father's eyes darkened. He used you, Hannah. You think this is love? It's manipulation. It's revenge. Her lips trembled. You framed him, didn't you? The words escaped before she could stop them. His expression hardened. You don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do, she snapped. I saw the files, the contracts, the transfers. You laundered the money and you blamed him. For the first time, she saw fear flash in his eyes. Just for a second, before it turned to fury. You have no idea how dangerous this game is, he hissed. You think the law protects people like us? No. It destroys us if we're not careful. Then what are you protecting, Dad? Your reputation or your guilt? He stepped closer, voice low and venomous. Whatever you think you know, forget it. And if Luca Marin contacts you again, I'll make sure he disappears, for good this time. Tears stung her eyes. You wouldn't. Try me. That night, Hannah's world began to fracture. Every word her father said felt like a threat carved into her skin. Every knock on the door made her flinch. At 1:12 a.m., her phone buzzed again. Luca. He's moving fast. He'll destroy the files. Hannah. He knows about us. Luca. Then we don't have much time left. Hannah. What are we going to do? Luca. Run. Her breath caught. Run where? Luca. Somewhere they can't find us. But we need the flash drive. It's the only way to prove everything. Her mind spun. Leaving meant betraying her father completely. Staying meant betraying her heart. She looked at the flash drive still hidden beneath her pillow, the one that could destroy her family. In the silence of her apartment, she whispered to herself, "This is what love feels like when it becomes a crime." By morning, she made her choice. Hannah drove to Luca's safe house, a small cabin on the outskirts of the city, hidden behind fog and forest. When she entered, he was waiting, his shirt unbuttoned, his face shadowed by exhaustion. "You actually came," he murmured, relief in his voice. "I had to," she said, handing him the flash drive. "But if we do this, there's no turning back." He smiled faintly. There never was. He plugged in the drive, the blue light flickering to life. Files opened, transaction records, offshore accounts, names of politicians and judges, all connected to her father's firm. This is enough to bring him down, Luca said. Enough to expose everyone. Hannah's breath trembled. Then why do you look so angry? Because, he said darkly, it also proves I wasn't innocent either. She blinked. What? He turned the screen toward her. One file marked L. Marin, Witness Elimination 2018, a list of names, a blood-stained past. Your father paid me once, Luca said quietly, to make a problem disappear. I didn't kill anyone, but I helped hide what he did. That's why I went to prison for him. Her world cracked open. So you used me, she whispered. All of this. Was it just revenge? His eyes softened. It started that way. But then I met you, and suddenly revenge wasn't enough. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Do you even hear yourself? She said, tears spilling. You're confessing to crimes while asking me to love you. I'm not asking, he said. I'm just hoping you'll still believe that what we have is real. She turned away, her voice breaking. Love isn't supposed to destroy everything it touches. Luca stepped closer, pressing his forehead to hers. Maybe not, but ours was never meant to survive. Outside, sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Hannah froze. Did you hear that? Luca's eyes narrowed. He moved to the window. 2 black cars. Headlights off. Moving slow. They found us, he whispered. How? He looked at her, a grim smile on his lips. Because the moment you stole that flash drive, you became the biggest threat to your father's empire. She swallowed hard. What do we do now? Luca's voice was steady, deadly calm. Now we run. Together. Or not at all. And as the headlights cut through the fog, Hannah realized she wasn't just running from the law anymore. She was running from the life she'd always known. The forest swallowed them whole. The night air was thick with fog and fear as Hannah and Luca ran, their footsteps muffled by wet leaves and the echo of sirens in the distance. The flash drive, that cursed proof of everything, was clutched in Hannah's trembling hand like a burning secret. Branches tore at her coat, mud clung to her shoes, and her heart pounded so violently she could barely breathe. Keep moving, Luca whispered. His hand was on her back, guiding her through the darkness. They're not far. She wanted to scream, at him, at herself, at the world that had turned their love into something hunted, but all she could do was run. Finally, when their lungs burned and their legs shook, they stopped at an old abandoned train yard, its rusted skeletons standing silent under the moonlight. Luca led her into an empty carriage and closed the door behind them. For the first time in hours, silence. Hannah collapsed onto the floor, her breath ragged. This is insane, she whispered. We can't keep running forever. We just need to disappear for a while, Luca said. Once I decrypt the files, we'll send everything to the press. Your father won't be able to touch us. Touch us? She said bitterly. Luca, my father isn't just a man. He's a system. He owns people, judges, police. You think an email will bring him down? Luca crouched beside her, eyes fierce. Then what do you suggest? Surrender? Go home and pretend none of this happened? Her voice trembled. I want to stop losing pieces of myself for you. He flinched, just slightly, but enough for her to see it. You think I wanted this? No, she whispered, but you chose it. You chose revenge, and I chose you, and now we're both trapped in something we can't escape. Luca sat beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. The silence between them felt like confession. Maybe love was never meant to save us, he said softly. Maybe it was meant to reveal who we really are. She looked at him, at the man who had ruined her peace but made her feel alive for the first time. And who are we, Luca? He smiled, sad and tired. Criminals with good intentions. By dawn, the train yard was empty again. They'd moved to an old motel outside the city, the kind where no one asked for ID and the wallpaper peeled like forgotten memories. Hannah sat on the bed, staring at the flash drive. "Everything we need is in here," Luca said, connecting it to a burner laptop. "One more night. Then we release it all." But before he could finish, there was a knock on the door. 3 slow taps. Hannah's breath caught. "Who is it?" Luca froze. "No one knows we're here." The knock came again, louder this time. Luca reached for the pistol under the mattress. "Get behind me!" But when the door creaked open, it wasn't the police. It was Elias Trent, her father's old partner. The man who had sat beside him in every courtroom photo, who had smiled through every lie. "Put the gun down, Luca," Elias said calmly, stepping inside. "If I wanted you dead, I'd have sent someone else." Hannah stood, voice shaking. "How did you find us?" Elias's eyes softened on her. "Your father's worried sick, Hannah." "Worried?" She laughed bitterly. "He sent people after us." "He's trying to fix this before it gets worse," Elias said. "He doesn't want you hurt." "Then why are you here?" Luca demanded. Elias sighed. "To offer you both a deal. Hand over the drive, walk away, start new lives, no charges, no blood." Luca's jaw clenched. "You think I trust your word?" "You should," Elias said, glancing at Hannah. "Because if you don't, your father will bury both of you, and no one will ever find the bodies." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Elias said quietly, "I'll give you 1 hour. After that, I can't protect you anymore." He turned and left, the door closing behind him like a final verdict. Hannah sat in silence, staring at the drive in her hands. The choice pulsed in her like a second heartbeat. "If we give it to him," she whispered, "we live. If we don't, we die," Luca finished. She looked at him, really looked at him. "Do you still believe this is worth dying for?" He didn't answer. Instead, he took the drive from her and placed it on the table. "I believe in you," he said simply. "Whatever you decide, I'll follow." Her eyes burned. "Don't do that. Don't put that on me." "You're the only thing that's ever made me want to be better," he said, his voice breaking. "If that means dying beside you, then so be it." She couldn't breathe. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, the truth sharper. Hannah stood slowly, reached for the drive and whispered, "Then we don't run anymore." Luca's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" She grabbed the laptop, opened a secure connection, and began uploading the files. Every transaction, every hidden name, every crime. Luca's hand covered hers. "Hannah." "No," she said firmly. "It ends now, even if it destroys us." The upload bar crawled across the screen. 45%, 62%, 79%. Then, the sound of tires screeching outside. Headlights cut through the cracks in the curtains. "They're here," Luca said. "Hannah, stop the upload." She shook her head. "If we stop now, they win." The door burst open, and her father stood there, gun in hand. For a moment, everything froze. Hannah's eyes met his, and for the first time, she didn't see a father. She saw the man behind the lies. "Step away from the computer," he ordered. Luca moved slightly in front of her. "Don't do this, Pierce. You'll never get out of it." Her father's gaze was cold. "You ruined her. You turned my daughter into an accomplice." "I didn't ruin her," Luca said quietly. "You did." The gun trembled. The upload hit 98%. And then, one deafening gunshot shattered the world. The gunshot echoed through the motel like a scream trapped in steel. For a moment, Hannah didn't feel anything. Not fear, not pain, just the crushing weight of silence. Then she turned and saw Luca collapse, his hand pressed against his chest, blood spreading through his shirt like a red confession. "No!" she cried, falling beside him. "Luca, no, please!" Her father stood frozen, the gun shaking in his hand. His face, the face that had always been carved in control, was now pale, terrified. "I didn't mean to—" But his voice broke when he saw Hannah's eyes. The upload bar blinked once. 100% complete. It was done. The files were out. Hannah looked at the laptop, then at her father. "It's over," she whispered. Her father's hand dropped to his side, the gun slipping from his grasp and clattering to the floor. He stared at her, not as a daughter anymore, but as a stranger who had just destroyed him. "You don't understand," he said weakly. "Everything I did was for you." "For me?" she spat, tears burning her face. "You built your empire on lies. You used me as your excuse. You killed everything I loved." His eyes flickered to Luca, who was gasping for breath. "He used you too. You think he's innocent? He helped me once, Hannah. He's no better." "I know," she whispered. "But at least he tried to be." She pressed her hand against Luca's wound, blood seeping through her fingers. "Stay with me," she pleaded. He smiled faintly. "I told you, our love wasn't meant to survive." "Don't say that," she sobbed. "You promised we'd run away." "We did," he whispered. "Just not far enough." His breathing slowed. His eyes, those sharp, defiant eyes, softened. "You did it, Hannah. The truth's out. You saved us." She shook her head. "No, I lost you." His last words were barely a breath. "Then love me enough to remember me." And then he was gone. Hannah's scream tore through the night. It wasn't just grief. It was everything. Years of silence. Years of pretending. Every secret she had ever swallowed came pouring out in that one sound. Her father sank to his knees, shaking. "Hannah, Don't," she said, voice hollow. "You don't get to say my name anymore." Sirens began to wail in the distance. Red and blue lights danced against the motel walls. The law her father once controlled was finally coming for him. He looked at her one last time, something breaking in his expression. "You'll never forgive me." She wiped the tears from her face. "You're right." When the officers burst in, she didn't look away as they handcuffed him. She didn't speak when they covered Luca's body. She just stood there, a statue carved from everything love had destroyed. 6 months later, the trial made headlines around the world. Prominent attorney exposed in corruption scandal by own daughter. Her father received a life sentence. Elias Trent vanished. The press called Hannah the whistleblower, the hero, even the tragic lover. But none of those titles felt like hers. She moved to a quiet coastal town where no one knew her name. Every morning she walked to the cliffs overlooking the sea, the same shade of gray as the night Luca died. She carried a silver locket around her neck with a single photograph inside. Her and Luca at the pier, the night everything began. The night she stopped feeling safe but started feeling alive. Sometimes she thought she saw him in the crowd, in the shadow of a stranger, in the echo of a voice carried by the wind. And sometimes, when the rain fell hard enough, she'd close her eyes and whisper, "Are you still out there?" The sea never answered, but in its silence, she always heard him. On the anniversary of the trial, a letter arrived at her door. No name, no return address, just her initials written in black ink. Inside was a single sheet of paper. One line. "You were right. Love was never innocent, but it was real,